What's going on, car family? I'm Ben Wayne. Thank you for joining me in another video. Today we are at Atlanta Classic Cars Mercedes-Benz, and we're going to be taking a look at this new 2020 Mercedes-Benz A220. What is the A Class? Well, the A Class is the Mercedes-Benz attempt to pull in a younger buyer into the brand. So they're going to be introducing a lot more younger buyers into this brand with this aggressively priced small premium sedan. That's what Mercedes-Benz refers to this car as, a small premium sedan. So the base price for this car is $32,800. So your lease could be as low as $350 for this car, depending on options. This particular vehicle is finished in polar white, and it features a black MB Tex interior. So the customers Mercedes-Benz is going after are going to be driving Hondas and hot hatches. So today, let's go through the interior and exterior details of this car and see how this ride has been engineered for excellence. Now, before we get started, if you find yourself interested in this vehicle, please be sure to reach out to my friend Jesse Cannon-Wallace here at Atlanta Classic Cars. Let's go ahead and get to it. So starting at the front, you notice the hood features these simple lines, giving the car some character. Now coming over to the headlamps, they are all LED. So you're getting an LED low beam and an LED reflective high beam. Now, Mercedes-Benz intelligent lighting system is also available at an additional charge. The grille features the chrome diamond block design, and then this car has also been fitted with some AMG sculpting as well, giving the car a little bit more character from the front. Let's go check out the side profile. Taking a look at the side profile of the A220, you're gonna notice that it has a fairly simplistic design. Just two simple lines, one from the headlamps going all the way to the back, and then a lower line giving some sculpting to the lower bodywork of the car. I love how this car just has a simplistic and classic design. A lot of cars in this segment have been dramatically overstyled, and it just kills the look of the side profile of other vehicles. You also have the AMG 5-spoke black wheels. That's an option. This car also has the night package as well. That's going to black out your side view mirrors and your window surrounds, giving it a more sporty appeal. Now, speaking of sporty appeal, this car also features the lowered comfort suspension, and it does exactly what it sounds like it does. It lowers the car's stance, giving it a more sporty appeal, but you're also getting a comfortable ride. Now, if you've seen the refreshed E-Class, this should look familiar to you. So we have some new design language that looks like it's going to be translated into the rest of the Mercedes-Benz fleet. And I want to mention that all your headlamps and tail lamps, all lighting in this car, exterior and interior, 100% LED lighting. Now, as far as trunk space is concerned, you're getting 11.6 cubic feet of storage in the back. So that's enough of the exterior details. I want to hop in this car, talk about the interior, and also take it on a test drive. All right, so we're behind the wheel of this A220. Isha, what are your first impressions? Just taking a look at the interior, what are your thoughts?
It looks really good for an entry-level, high-end luxury vehicle.
Right. It looks really modern, and it looks like, they're not shortchanging you on the technology that's available in this car.
Not at all.
So
Still getting these lights around here. I can
soft
tell,
touch materials, not leather.
Right, not leather, not Alcantara, but I have some here.
Yeah, you got the Dynamica inserts on the seats.
So, this is pretty good. And for what I'm paying, you said it can start off at
Starts off at $32,800.
Right, and to me that's relatively expensive. So
right, but remember, if you're looking to get into the Mercedes-Benz brand, we have to assume that you are somewhat of a car person.
Yeah.
Right. If you are not interested in cars at all, you're probably just gonna get a Honda or a Toyota. Some of those, depending on how you option them out, they can get up there. But I do expect the A-Class to be more expensive than the vehicles it's being compared to, just based off the fact it's a Mercedes-Benz.
Correct.
Like you pointed out, the color, that's an additional $300 or so option on top of that base price of $32,800.
Okay.
Right? So this car does have some additional options, like the AMG steering wheel with the flat bottom.
Or the foot pedals.
That's part of the option package.
It looks like a racing foot pedal here.
So there's some design characteristics and ways that the execution and the interior is different from a typical car like, you know,
Right.
a Camry or something like that. This, it looks good. It feels good.
It feels light too.
It feels light.
It's not heavy. I can tell. Okay, let me go back to all the other Mercedes that I've, have rode in. Can I feel the bumps and hear some noises? Yes, because it's not giving me the total, what is it called? The sound or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say.
Right.
But this is still smoother than my Ford, okay?
That's correct.
So
we have to be careful of what we say in here because you have the Mercedes-Benz user experience system in here.
Hey, Mercedes, take me to Starbucks. I just want one.
Every time.
Sorry.
Every time you do that.
Okay.
So that's another feature that, you won't typically get in other vehicles on this playing field.
Yeah, that's an upgrade.
Right.
Right?
So a person who wants that in their car is not looking for...
Because that feature was in the higher end
Exactly.
vehicles.
Exactly. So you're getting a lot of the technology that's in their higher end vehicles in this car as well. And, the new S-Class comes out in another year or so. The current S-Class does not have the MBUX system in it, and this does. So I like how, you're getting a lot of tech in here, a decent amount for the price point that they're asking for. You get the two 10.25-inch displays that are touchscreen, easy to use, multiple ways of using it. You can control it through the steering wheel, the MBUX system, so you can talk to it, or, like I said, touchscreen. And the touchscreen is just really responsive in this car.
How fancy does this vehicle get? Is it only come in the sedan? Is it a coupe? Can it come in convertible?
So
what are we looking at?
It doesn't come in a convertible. There's a car called the CLA, and we'll probably discuss more about that in another video. But essentially is this car, but has a more sporty appeal, a bit more power. This car is powered by a turbo inline 4-cylinder. It's putting out 188 horsepower and 221 pound-foot of torque, 0 to 60 in about 7.1 seconds. It's not designed to be rapid or, like an AMG vehicle. This is just a typical everyday sedan that has been made somewhat affordable to a younger buyer. So don't expect 0 to 60 times of like 3 seconds or anything in here.
No, right. So if you're looking to break into this brand, this would be something great.
This would be something
it's
to
noticeable.
Look at.
Somebody would know what you're driving. I'm pretty amazed at what's inside for this price range that's considered entry level.
Right.
I'm not mad at it.
Right.
I'm getting my sunroof.
The panoramic roof.
Yeah.
Panoramic roof is standard. So no matter how you option this car out, you're going to get a panoramic roof. I do wish the roof went all the way back, but I think for structural reasons they couldn't do that, so I understand that. But I think, depending on how you option this car out, if you option it out carefully, you can get a fairly decent car for a decent price. If you're not too careful, you could get this price going towards 50 grand, and then that becomes a different conversation.
If you're going to do 50 grand, you might as well
look at some other things.
Right, and that means that you can get a higher end Mercedes.
Higher end Mercedes or higher end anything else.
Right.
Really.
I think if you're trying to get in clean, get the entry level basic model with a couple tech specs that you want, keep it for a couple years, and then you can move on.
Right. Now, as far as the handling, it is relatively comfortable, right?
It's really well.
It handles really well.
I can feel it.
You feel a sense of confidence, especially on this twisty road.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to say, oh, well, the car doesn't feel heavy like a typical Benz. I'm just going to say Benz. I'm just going to say Benz because I don't want to trigger the system, but it's a light car. It's going to feel light, right? So it's unfair for me to compare this to the S-Class, a car that is at least 3 times the price of this car.
Right.
But
I can feel the lightness. Like, I don't feel like this is heavy.
Right.
That's immediately what I noticed when you started moving.
Right. And you really do want a car that feels responsive, not sluggish.
Right.
This does only have 188 horsepower, so you do not want it to be heavy because you're going to find it lacking.
Okay.
So, and then in addition to that, one thing I want to mention is this has a dual clutch transmission, and the shifts are relatively seamless and smooth. Previous generation Mercedes-Benz gearboxes, for the time period they were released, they were okay. But when you drive this car, you can truly feel the long way they have come in development of their transmissions. So you're getting a dual clutch in this as standard. Now, if 188 horsepower isn't enough for you, and I know for some people that's not enough, there is the Mercedes-Benz A and that is kind of like an AMG trim model. So it's still powered by a 2-liter 4-cylinder, turbocharged, but it's putting out 302 horsepower. So that's a lot up from 188. 302 horsepower. Mm-hmm. Your 0 to 60 time is going to come down from 7.1 to 4.5. That is a significant difference, and that is a car you can hold on to your butt in. But I will say that the A35 is $12,000 more than this car. So again, it really just depends on what you want and what you're looking for. It might be the perfect entry-level AMG, arguably. That might be a subject for another video. So how do you think the seats are? How do they feel to you?
You know, they feel good.
Relatively comfortable?
Yeah, comfortable. It has the side bolstering. Mm-hmm. It's not a short seat, and what I mean by that, it extends my leg. Mm-hmm. So, as I've mentioned before in other videos, you know, sometimes I get leg cramps because the seats are they're short.
Right.
So my knees are, you know, at that 90-degree angle, but this is an extension. It's not the extra extension that you can have in some vehicles, but
right.
This is good. It's nice.
It's decent.
I guess I was expecting something a little bit more entry level, maybe plastic.
So
of what you would look
for. The thing is, it's like how they execute it. This isn't leather. This is called MB Tex, mm-hmm. and it feels relatively close to leather.
Okay.
You can option this car out with leather. Like if you want leather seats, if you want leather seats, that could be an additional, you know, $1,400.
Right. So honestly, if you are looking to get into this brand, you need to keep it. And if this is what's in your price range, this is good.
This is pretty good.
Don't spec it out to that magnitude, because then you're going to go over that budget, and then you can get into another
tier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So keep it here. This is great.
Right.
I think they did a great job with this.
They have done a good job with this car. So they're trying to pull after people going into Toyotas and Hondas, you know, maybe get them to consider a luxury brand.
Toyotas and Hondas, you can pick up one for $30,000, which is almost insane to me, because I'm like, since when did they get that expensive?
They got expensive, yes.
Right?
Depending on how you option them, they can get really expensive. But, you know, just to play devil's advocate, one could argue that a lot of the features that might be additional in the A-Class might be standard in some of those vehicles. But again, it all comes to the execution. You're not getting an interior that looks like this in a Toyota or a Honda.
No, you're not. And if you guys know your brands, Mercedes is...
Their interiors are just...
You know.
And one thing about
You're not going to say... You never ever are going to hear someone say, hey, I'm driving a luxury Toyota or Honda.
Yeah,
Let's just be
true.
real.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah,
so
you kind of have that branding.
If you were sought after Mercedes and you're going to pay 30-something thousand, go for the Mercedes. Yes, it may be, you know, an additional cost on some of the maintenance or things like that, but the car is going to treat you really, really well.
This is a nice car.
It's going to treat you well.
One thing I noticed, and I mentioned this when we were doing the walk around, is I like the exterior design, how simplistic it is.
It is.
A lot of the other cars in this segment are just so overstyled, and then they change the design language of the cars every other year, it seems like to me. One thing when it comes to cars in general for me is that, you know, if you're going to call a car something, you know, for example, let's say the Acura NSX when it came out, the new one. That's a completely different car, I know, but for the sake of this example, the new generation Acura NSX, if you remove that Acura badge and didn't tell anybody it was an NSX, they could never tell that that's what that car is, because there's no lineage in the design from the current one to the previous one. So it's like you technically could have called it anything, right? With Mercedes, see, triggered. Nothing. Please be quiet. So with this brand, what I'm saying
Starbucks is right down there.
5 years from now, when they do a new iteration or redesign of the A Class, it's gonna look somewhat like this car. There's gonna be some lineage. It's not gonna look like a completely different vehicle, and you won't even be able to tell what it was. Like there's some heritage, like the current Mustang. If I'm from present day and I go back 30 years ago or 40 years ago, 50 years ago, that Mustang is gonna look relatively the same as it does now. There's some characteristics that define that car and make it a Mustang. You know what I'm saying? So other cars in this segment, they just get a radical redesign every 5 years, and I've never understood that. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that. Overall, I think the ride in here is excellent. I think it's optioned out pretty well. I do love the tech in here. When I was going to review this car, I wasn't too excited about it, but when I hopped in the interior, I was like, oh wow, you know,
yeah, it's not expected for.
It's more than I expected.
Yeah.
I mean, your air conditioning vents have the lights in it.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, really. And then, you know, you have the Dynamica inserts on the seats.
Even the screen sizes, I like that.
Yep, 10.25 inch.
I like that.
Dual displays. I like that. It looks really nice. Of course, you have your dynamic select.
So if you want to break me into the brand, you can start me here.
That's not what we're here for. We're here to tell the audience.
Audience, if you think you should break me into this brand, go ahead and leave that comment down below.
I gotta stop featuring you in these videos.
Or we can just get Starbucks.
All right, I'll settle for Starbucks. I think you just manipulated me, but. So you even have your dynamic select in here. You know, you can switch between eco, comfort, sport, individual. So all the features that you come to know and love from this brand are available. You got this trackpad here, you know, a rest for your wrist. Oh yeah,
I didn't notice that. That's nice.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the execution in the interior is really what is selling me on this car. I did not expect it. You know, the brushed aluminum finishes, the Dynamica inserts on the doors, you know, your aluminum door handles, just the contrast and the way it was executed. You know, you got the stitching, that's optional.
Right. Oh,
you know,
okay.
That's an option, but you know, it is available in the A Class if you want it.
Now, let's be clear. This is entry level, but this is not something I would buy my 16-year-old. Okay.
Yeah, this is not for your 16-year-old or, you know, just working class.
Right.
Fairly young. You know, maybe this is something you would look into.
I mean, I would. This is this is good.
Yep. Pretty good. So those are our overall thoughts on this car. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section.
No holding on to your butts once again in
again,
this one.
0 to 60 in 7 seconds, no.
But I probably could do it.
In 7 seconds, no. You could not. You could not. Let me know your thoughts. If you're interested, please be sure to reach out to my friend Jesse Cannon-Wallace. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you're notified whenever I release new content. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Ciao.